Hey there, I'm Kevin.
And I'm Jamie, and we're your co-hosts for Two Clicks in a Pod.
Join us as we explore our missed times, stories, and memories due to divorce and a 1,000-mile separation.
I can't wait. You ready to get into it, Kev?
I am. Hey, Jamie, you think you're going to swear?
Oh, yeah. Consider yourselves warned.
There's so many ways to make love, a million ways I'm really thinking of. There you go.
Oh, don't stop now.
Yep, there we go.
So I wanted to tell you, I had a very nostalgic moment. I was driving home with the kids, racing to get home to eat my mediocre meatloaf, to then race over here to record with you. And you know, we listen to a lot of classic rewind in the car.
Yeah.
Because of
yeah.
Parker's love for classic rock music.
Mm-hmm.
And on the radio comes Bad Medicine by the John Bon Jovi.
His club opened up here in Nashville now.
Well, they got their touring. So I did hear about that club. Apparently there's a hologram of John Bon Jovi in the club.
Yeah.
But here's what I wanted to ask you, if you remember. So when we went and saw them, him in Dallas.
Yep.
When Chris and I were living there, it was me, you, Shane, Chris.
Even before that, when Shane and you were little kids.
Well, Bon Jovi was my first concert ever. Slippery When Wet.
Right.
What I wouldn't give to have kept that T-shirt, because I know you bought me a T-shirt. I don't have it.
Yep.
It's very disappointing to me. Anyways.
T-shirts back then you wouldn't wear today.
Why not?
They're so heavy.
They were heavy.
Yeah,
but it would be cool to have.
I've given all mine away. I've given them all to Goodwill because they're too heavy. Even
after you wash them a lot, they didn't lighten up after you washed them a bunch.
No, I've got Def Leppard shirts that I've been washing 100 times, and they make them out of that Gildane. Remember that brand of T-shirt?
Yeah.
God Almighty, they're
well.
Too...
Don't give any away anymore until I get to see them. I may want them.
I know, because that was one of my themes. I wore my Sammy shirt today because on each episode I want to bring in a new rock shirt. So
okay.
Yep.
Well, anyway,
I got dressed up today.
I got dressed up too.
I see that. Go Knowles.
Right. This is my new FSU shirt.
Oh,
I love it.
It feels soft. It feels soft.
It is soft. It is. It was on sale.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, this is what I wanted to ask you. That concert, though, if you remember, Bon Jovi opened with Bad Medicine. And do you remember where our seats were on this? We had that side angle.
Yep.
And we saw John walk up to the stage behind the curtain.
Yep.
And remember, he had his head down and he just started shaking his hands when that that drum beat started going.
Yeah.
And he brought him up. But no, the audience couldn't see him, but we could see him.
He still does that same move if you watch his biography. His biography's out now on Netflix.
Oh, okay.
Park would love seeing that, I would think.
All right, we'll watch it. I remember that night and him doing that, and like that was a look behind the scenes. I loved it. I love Bon Jovi. I really do.
You don't remember the strippers at the Kid Rock show?
No, I do.
Okay.
You were more enthralled by that than I was.
Yeah, me and Dennis were. Yeah.
I really enjoyed the Kid Rock show. As we've told,
it was a great show.
We've told that story many a times. How great we thought that concert is.
Do you remember who opened up for him?
I couldn't tell you.
Leonard Skinner.
Really?
Yep.
One of my favorites.
Yep.
Did I ever tell you how when we lived in the condo there in Tallahassee, after you gave me those two blue lazy boy chairs, the old school lazy boys?
Yeah.
And Lindsay and I would sit in those. We had them stationed side by side, and we would just get so stoned. And then we had a Leonard Skinner DVD that was a biography about the band. And we would just watch that on like repeat. that DVD. And God, we loved it. And
have you gone back and watched any of the biographies of the bands that you actually grew up with?
Well,
They're all over. I mean, you can find them on Prime. You can find them on Netflix. There
yeah.
is a great, I think I said this the last time, there is a great Nickelback
We already talked
biography.
about this last
I know.
on our
I know.
yes.
I'm just
Yeah.
telling you.
Yeah.
It's the best. Those documentaries are awesome. It's kind of like behind the music.
I do enjoy listening to those things. I guess where and I feel like my kids may be a little bit like this, more so Parker than Reese, because Reese is super into pop music.
And
But
that's okay.
it's totally fine. It's totally fine. But
Who
so
doesn't
much of
like Adam Levine? I mean, we all love Adam. So there you go.
from why can't I think of Maroon 5.
Yeah, Sugar, Maroon 5. That's right.
Oh God. That's not even their like best song. Anyways,
No, it's not.
but
Their
the
best
music
video is when they go around LA breaking into all the wedding receptions.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
I just was going to say that what I
Sugar.
remember in terms of music as a child was always listening to the music that you guys listened to. I don't really remember too much of the music of my time as, I guess as a child.
Yeah, Shane's really good about that. Shane's good about knowing all. Yep.
Of course,
Shane's
Mom
good
loved
about
Elton
knowing it
John.
all. Mm-hmm. I mean, Shane knows all the stuff he listened to in the truck. Knows all the stuff that came in high school. He knows all the stuff from front to back. So he's got a big catalog in his head.
Shane has a very good memory.
Mm-hmm.
He really does. First of all, and
really,
no, really, he does. And second of all, a lot of
I ask him questions all the time. He says, "Dad, I don't remember."
Well, he always
it's not important stuff. It's not important. It's what's important.
It's what's important to him. I think he has a good memory, but he introduced me to a lot of music in high school that I started listening to.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, man, we went down a curvy
music
path
trail.
there.
We did. Yep, we did.
So I heard the Bon Jovi song and it got me super amped, and I remember that night of that concert, and I really liked that. I loved watching that behind the scenes look of John get himself amped up for the show.
I've actually gotten pretty close to perfecting living on a prayer. I say with maybe a misbeat or two on my kick pedal, but I've done
drums, you mean?
Yes, on the drums. I play that at least twice every day, and I work up a new song. But that would be the first song on my gig that I would play, and then Tico Torres. I mean, you master his kick pattern on a song. I think he just readapts that through most of the songs. But
I love the drums in Bad Medicine. At the end there, where it's like, do, 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 do. I mean, man, that's good. Is that the bass drum that he's hitting when he does that? It's got to be the bass drum.
Yep.
I love
bass
that.
or the floor tom. One of his floor toms.
Maybe
could be
that's
both.
Floor tom.
Could be both. You'll notice that. Well, you wouldn't notice, but anyway,
I wouldn't.
A lot of times on these heavy beats, you're kicking your bass drum, you're hitting your snare drum and the tom all at the same time. So resonates very deeply. But yeah, I think Park would really love that. I think if he got into just looking at, there's so many cool. If you have a Samsung TV and you get on Samsung TV, they have video channels, and they always have the best of the 70s, the best of the 80s. I mean, and it's
I
good.
I have a bone to pick with you about the Samsung TV.
Why is that?
Well, because when you came to visit like a year ago, you turn that on my TV, and now I don't know. And so now when I turn my TV on, it always goes to that.
Goes to the videos?
It goes to the Samsung TV thing, and I can't figure out how to get it off.
Well, you have to hit the home button and just go up and select the next device.
I know, but I don't
it's
want
right
it to
there.
I know that, Dad.
Well, turn it. You put it to a different channel and then turn it off, and that will be the default channel it fires up on.
No, it's not how it works. When you're here in a couple weeks, I'm going to show you, because no matter what I turn it off on, which is typically my Apple TV, when I turn it back on, it's on the Samsung TV. Obviously,
well, yeah,
it won't.
It will not. The new Samsung TVs, no, it will not do Apple TV. It will remember the last channel that Samsung was on. Now, on the newer Samsungs, that always infuriated me. But on the newer Samsungs, they remember that if you were on Hulu, it will fire up the Hulu channel. Now, 5 years ago, when I moved into the lake house, it wouldn't do that. So now it would always just default to whatever the startup channel was on LG or Samsung. Now they remember what app is on and default to the channel that you turned off.
Did you buy all new TVs when you moved to Nashville?
Yeah, I had to leave I sold the other ones with the house, so they had to stay. Yeah.
Okay, so
might want to update your TV. Put that one down in the basement.
It isn't that old.
How old is it? Old enough.
Old enough for you to mess it up, but I don't know.
Well, no, but this TV that stayed with the house is a 2017, and I can't airdrop to this TV. Well, it's infuriating. So, all right. Anyway, enough about TVs. Let's talk about other things. I think we caught up. Hey, how was your holiday weekends? What I want to hear.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you that. Well, mine will be a quick catch up. It was just hot, Dad. It was so hot that, in all honesty, we were inside a lot. I'll go real quick. The parade went well. Brady won for the dog contest.
Wow.
I thought I sent you that picture of Brady in his Phillies costume.
Hey, did you award him that statue I bought you for your birthday when you got home?
No,
did you show? Have you shown him his statue? Oh yeah, show him.
No, I keep that here at the studio.
Yeah.
No, it's my present, not his. Anyways, he won for the dog contest. In full transparency, no other dogs entered. So I was so bent about that because he looked awesome. He had a Phillies jersey. Phillies socks. And I took, the cup that you get the ice cream in at the baseball games. It's the baseball helmet. I took that, put Velcro on it, and made it a hat for him to wear. So he had a Phillies hat. It was awesome. Even the people who voted were like, well, not that there is any competition, but he would have won if there was. And I'm like, well, I'll go with that. I was so pissed off, though, because, of course, I spent,
Yeah, he looked cute with all his outfit.
$30.
You have to post a picture.
I will post a picture. I spent $30 to win an $8 Dairy Queen gift card.
You need to talk to your sister-in-law about that. I bet Haley wouldn't have spent $6 and won that damn thing.
It was the jersey. The jersey was like $25.
Oh, Lordy.
Anyways.
Well, I did better than that on my first wakeboard tournament when I entered the senior division. At least I had one other competition, and I took the gold.
Well, good for you. Anyways, Brady won. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Brady won, and then the pool activities were a lot of fun. I know it's hot everywhere, so I don't want to complain about this. Like, I'm living in a vacuum by myself, but it is very hot up here. The humidity is extremely high. So even being outside at the pool was just, it was hot. It was very, very hot. So Saturday night, though, we went to the Flyers training facility. They were wrapping up the developmental camp this past week. So the kid Jet from Canada that they just signed as their first round draft pick.
Yeah.
He was there doing developmental camp with some kids that got signed last year. That these are not necessarily players that are going to play next season, but they're it's the future of the Flyers, as they say. So we went and they did a full autograph session. So Parker got his jersey signed and his hat signed, and then we stayed and watched the scrimmage game.
Mm-hmm.
So that was cool. That was Saturday. That was basically the weekend.
Wow.
Did you get out on the boat?
Yep, got out on the boat couple times. Went out on the 4th, which is surprising to me, being on this Old Hickory Lake. But it was, it was in the low 90s. We went back out on throughout the weekend, and it got down like in the high 80s, but the humidity was just, like you say, it wasn't the heat, it was the humidity that was just so, you couldn't get the boat prepped and ready without just, going through a t-shirt. But we had a really good time. This is a little bit of a different body of water than we're used to, but just a good, I compare it to running the Brazos River in Texas, where you're on course, that Brazos River is probably 100 yards wide. Here you're staying between the red and the green buoys, but I bet we rode 20 miles upriver on the 4th, and then we went about 20 miles downriver the next time out. And that takes a long freaking time to make that travel. But just kind of checking things out, and water was good. You get out there, and I mean, it's not like the lake at home where holidays you don't even get on the water. It's so freaking choppy, flat, nice, smooth water. Nice. And in spite of everybody being out, you don't see a whole lot of boats unless you're pulling into a parking cove. You know what I mean? Like they call it 2-foot bay, which the water is kind of like it is in Destin in that area. They call it Crab Island, I think.
Oh yeah.
Where it's about 2 feet deep and everybody anchors out there.
So people are just hanging out. Yeah.
Yeah. Just hanging out and craziness there. I mean, it's funny. You'll see a pontoon boat on it that's got a freaking tractor trailer diesel cab on the front of it. It looks like a truck. Just nut stuff. But anyways, fun, good weekend. And, got to learn a lot about the new boat and the river and the lake, as they call it, but it's basically a river.
Yeah.
And navigating the same. So
that's cool. Good. I'm glad you guys finally got out there.
Me too. I can't wait. Feel much better about it.
We can be there and do it with you. It'd be a good time. Mm-hmm. I know the kids are very anxious to be able to do that in the new setting.
Yeah. We pulled up and parked and amongst a bunch of people and tried to meet a couple next to us, at least had a good conversation with them. And then I told you, I think earlier today about the young kids out to the left of us. That was comical, but good times. So it'll be fun. And better yet, there's plenty of room to get in the middle of it or get out of it. So it's a lot of fun.
That's good. Well, I guess the big haps of the week, obviously when this episode airs, it will have been the past, but I feel like we kind of have to make note that we are in the middle of launch week of the podcast. So that's been our biggest news probably. And obviously we're living that together, but just noting to all the listeners, it's been a lot of fun this week, and we'll get into the feedback section at the end. But yeah, we've been living that, and it's been keeping us busy and just excited to keep down this path. But one of the questions I got was, all right, I really very interested. I'm in it. When do we hear about the divorce? When do we get the goods?
Let's deliver the goods. Yep.
When do we get to the drama? But so that's on the docket for today, and I don't know. I'm nervous about it, Dad. I don't know why. I hope you're not.
I'm not at all nervous about it, and I'll tell you why. It's there's my first.
I've had two, I think.
Okay, so
you're doing
we should
kind
of laugh about that, but I think I'm not nervous, and we've talked about this, I believe, before, but that time frame is, the events aren't really fuzzy of what, kind of the out of bounds or what created the issue. What's fuzzy to me is just how your mom and I dealt with it. That's where I'm foggy. And I'm sure a lot of it was very troubling, and we've touched on that a little bit, and just the separation. I mean, I kind of got what I deserved, I guess, in the moves that I made, but it was difficult in thinking about this, just as to what I could really add. So I hope I can add something, but it's very difficult. Very difficult to remember is what I'm saying. Yes.
Well, let me say two things. One, I think this will, I was very happy to hear it. I guess it was 2 days ago, Sunday. I was here for Sunday night dinner, and Mom and I were talking about the episodes finally going live, the next day. And she said, well, when are you recording again? And what's on the plan. And I said, well, we're going to tackle the divorce and all of that. And she had noted, that basically she just said, well, I've been thinking a lot about that the last couple of weeks too. And, I definitely played a role in it all as well. And, I wasn't blameless, I think is what she said. And it kind of took me by surprise. And I said, well, I think I just said like, well, that's nice. Like, I like hearing that or something along those lines. And I think I just said, cause like most things, it very rarely is just one person that's contributing to the outcome. I mean, there may be one person that does a final act that's like, all right, but it typically takes two people to get to anything, I think. I mean, in relationships, I should say. So that's what I wanted to say. And the second thing I wanted to say is to your memory point. And as we start getting into future episodes where I know you're going to be asking me about things and maybe what I remember, wanting to hear my perspective, that I know will be a challenge for me as well, because, and I've learned a joke about this, but I think I have blocked a lot of things out from just the trauma of it. It's like, I don't remember. And maybe I've always wondered, how some people go to hypnotists because they're able to pull out memories. I've often wondered if I ever went to one, if if like things would come back to me. Cause I think I just buried it because I didn't to get through it, That was a ding. I'm not gonna do that the whole time. So I just wanted to preface that. And I know you'll do your best. So maybe we just this is what I'm going to say one more thing. And then I do want you to do your best to just tell me where you feel like you started to be unhappy in the relationship. I think that's where it starts. And I guess we go there. Because I don't remember if you and I have ever talked about what I do know.
No, I'm sure we haven't.
Okay.
I think that's a fair assessment. I do want to go back real quick before we launch into that, of just talking about trauma. And in subsequent years after, going through the divorce with your mom and moving on to other relationships, I feel like I've spent a lot of time, as you know, in counseling, trying to figure out, was this me? What is it that's always been, why am I always so unsettled? And I think everybody knows this about me. It's hard for me to be happy with where I'm at any current day. I've always got something to improve. I always feel something to drive better, driving my, whether it's my company, my personal life. Just there was a lot of immaturity back then, number one. But talking about trauma, you don't have to go to a hypnotist. You can actually go through counseling, and they can get you back into that trauma very quick to where you recognize what trauma you've had and how early in your life, as you experienced, and I actually experienced, trauma was created. So trauma as a child can just be a bad day. I mean, it's trauma as a child through divorce is 10 bad days. I mean, it's tough. So I do want to say that you can find, and I have spent a lot of time and a lot of hours trying to find out what drives me and why I am so driven to find happiness and never be satisfied when it's staring me right there in the face. On your mom and our divorce, going back to that, and I really feel this is something I hope moving forward, maybe in future cast, that we can either off record or behind the scenes have that conversation. But there was just, and I don't know if you want to present a question or you just want me to speak or talk.
Yeah, I guess if you can remember, to your point of saying how you just never felt settled, when do you remember that? When do you remember feeling that way, where you just weren't, where you were starting to lose the contentment of the relationship? Because, when we left off, we talked about moving to Texas, and you're like, it was great. I was successful in my job. I was making more money. We lived in a great neighborhood, a lot of fun, good neighbors, good times. You kids were happy. I was so young. So what changed that?
I feel what changed that was me just growing up. I think it was me realizing in leaving Virginia and stepping out on my own and professionally, probably at first, seeing what an impact I was making at the company I went to work with, and how I fit right in, and how everybody saw the talent that was there and allowed me to give me the confidence that I was trying to grow into. And I felt very valued at that. So I knew I was doing a good job. And I know that it was hard on your mom and I both at that age, having two children at a young age, trying to make it, trying to have enough financially to provide what we hope to provide for our children and ourselves.
Yeah.
And it was difficult. It was, even at that age, after moving out and accepting the new job, I was drawing jobs in a closet in Rowlett at the 9014 Linda Vista house, which is where we lived when you were born. Mm-hmm. I was drawing jobs after work in order to make an extra $500 or $250 here and there. So I was constantly working for companies back in Virginia to do a set of drawings, as well as working my job in Mesquite at the time, right, or to make more money. Right. There was just enough, there just wasn't a lot of money, no matter what I left in Virginia to what I was making in Texas. That was better. It put us in a better home. It gave us more opportunity, I think, to succeed. But it was just a lot of hard work. And your mom was busy taking care of two children. I was busy going to work. She was stuck at home. I was at least out and about at work, had somewhat of a normal day, adult life during the day, and made friends very easily. And, some of those friends that worked with me lived in our neighborhood. And we had a great time in the initial year of that house. I mean, we were hanging out with the neighbors in the backyard. And my mom was telling me a story not too long ago within this present year, and asked me the question, do you remember when you and Colleen and your neighbors took your dad and I to the Playboy Club in Dallas? And
you told me this. Yeah.
Yeah. I said, I do remember that now that you mentioned it. I remember the neighbors right behind us. The Playboy Club was in the Dallas Cowboys headquarters down on 75. And it was kind of just an entertainment dinner show. So Mom mentioned that. And your mom and I would go out and run around with these neighbors. And I mean, we went out and experienced things that we never would have experienced otherwise at that point in our life. You know what I mean? It was amongst a big city, concerts, things going on. She and I shared a love of music through college. We shared a love of music in Harrisonburg. We'd go to a few shows. things like that. And then we got to Dallas, and it was, it was the Jackson 5 at Reunion Arena. It was things like that you were able to do that actually just opened up our eyes from what we had experienced younger into something that was more fun and more worldly, I guess, maybe is a good comparison. But in any event, there were a lot of distractions. There were lots of things to do. Not so much when we lived at Rowlett. After leaving that initial company and going to work at CDC in 82, we had moved into the new house. The new house was a tremendous opportunity. And as well, that was at the height of the house interest rates. We financed that house. I believe it was $88,000 and financed it for something above 12%. It could have been a 16% loan. I mean, it was costing more by far than what we paid for in rent, and something that just allowed us to call it our own. Mm-hmm. But with that, I was working a job at CDC that paid me hourly. So I was working 50 hours a week just to get the hourly pay.
Yeah.
We had to work a minimum of 44. If they felt we were good enough to work beyond that, I was in there working Monday through Friday, Saturday mornings, just to get 50 hours a week in so we could afford to make that house payment. Mm-hmm. So in that, there was a lot of things that were done on, again, me growing up, of things that I wanted to do as a child that never had the monetary means to do. Yeah. I mentioned the motorcycle that I bought in college that, I bought my senior year with Colleen, and we would ride it around and take it back home. And I didn't have any wheels, didn't have a car, had that car bought as I graduated with my dad's help. But so motorcycles, I always enjoyed that because my dad's brother, Uncle Jim, introduced me to his and his boys' motorcycles. So I always wanted to ride a dirt bike. So I go out and I buy a dirt bike. Always thought that would be fun. Bought Shane at age 3 that little 3-wheeler that you guys rode. So the weekends were comprised of really 2 things. It was comprised of outdoors, landscaping the front yard, which I did and we did. And it was about trying to get the house presentable up front with, landscaping didn't come with the house at that time. Built a deck out in the backyard. Jesse came along, the dog, at a later time frame. But it was all about just trying to enjoy the weekend and doing what we could do with what we had. And a motorcycle in those days didn't cost a lot of money. It was just an extra 60 hours a week for a couple weeks to pay for that motorcycle. So we had 2 cars at the time. Had the car that we drove there. I bought a Chevy pickup shortly after going to work for CDC. Every Texan needed a pickup, so I bought a pickup. And then we had a car that my Uncle Jim, who actually lived in Dallas when Colleen and I moved to Dallas, sold to us. And that was kind of her get around car. And it was I don't know if it was a Buick or an Oldsmobile. It was a maroon colored 4-door sedan that just, I forget what it cost. It didn't cost much money, but it was a second car. Mm-hmm. And we spent a lot of time over at Uncle Jim's. You go to your mom's on Sunday. Yeah. I'm sure she'll remember that we would travel over to Uncle Jim's on Sunday, after church, and we would meet them and have family dinner with Uncle Jim. Peggy, one of his daughters, was there. Pete was there at times. Some of the older kids would be there occasionally. But he had moved from New Hampshire to Dallas for a period of time. And then shortly thereafter, prior to the divorce, he'd actually moved back and left. So anyway, just kind of created a family unit and a family sense, which was good. But the only thing I can say is I think with time, with your mom devoted to you two inside, me outside, the outside, I did have buddies at work. It was very a good thing for me. Just got introduced into a lot of other things, and it wouldn't be unusual that I could stop. I would call her and say, "Well, we're going to stop by and drink a couple beers before we head home," and then we would head home. It wasn't like we were out all night, but I got to hang out with the guys, shoot some pool at Speed's Pool. I don't know if you ever remember Speed's Pool in the area, but just hang out with the guys and drink a few beers and then go home. And then she was there. And when we left the neighborhood in Rowlett and got to the neighborhood that we were at in Mesquite, we didn't know anybody. So, and that neighborhood never really gelled as it was new. Houses were being built. It wasn't established. And therefore, the same camaraderie of the neighborhood was not there.
Yeah.
So there was a little bit of a hole in all of that. I think I just got restless. I like I said, I can't put my finger down to one thing other than just, felt like your mom and I love doing some things, I'd grab you and Shane and we'd go ride bikes. She would come upon occasion, or, I would ride a bike, or she had to be there most of the time for sure. I'm sure she didn't enjoy that. I don't know. But it was my time to do everything that I'd always wanted to do. And it was probably not her time that she got to do anything she wanted to do.
Yeah.
She was happy sitting in a house reading a book at the time. Well, I was happy outside planting vegetation, building flower beds, doing that kind of thing. So,
well, and Mom's always been that way. I mean, Mom loves to read. That she does. That's a very much a pastime for her. All right, so this is going back to what we've talked about several times. Me always saying, that you and Mom both protected each other. There was never any bad talking about the other person. Well, he did this, I did that. People would say, "Why did your parents get divorced?" And I would always just say, I don't really know, and I don't remember my parents being married. And what we always were told again was just, "Hey, it didn't work out, but it doesn't mean that we don't love you and we didn't want you, and that's what matters." So that was just that was always the story, always. Well, and I'm just assuming Mom will remember this, but I don't know, and I haven't talked to her about it. And I don't remember what caused it, Dad, and you may not either, but it was either my 17th birthday. I think it was my 17th birthday. And you and I had gotten into some kind of a disagreement, which would have been over the phone. It wouldn't have been in person because you weren't there. And it was my birthday, and you did not call me on my birthday. And Mom and I had gone somewhere, and we were in her car. And this is where it's like some things I remember vividly and other things I've got nothing. Now, I couldn't tell you what you were upset with me about, but you were upset with me about something. And we pulled into the garage, and I just looked at Mom, and it was probably 7:00 at night. It wasn't the end of the night, but it was later. And I looked over at Mom, and I had tears in my eyes, and I said, he didn't call. He hasn't called me on my birthday. And of course, Mom got upset because I was upset. So she was mad at you. and whatever it was, she said, "You don't let him ruin your day." And again, I wish I could remember what we were disagreeing about, but she it was the first time she threw you under the bus and said, you know, your dad left us, and if he can't forgive you, that's basically bullshit, because we've all forgiven him. And don't let him make you feel bad. And that, of course, I just said, what do you mean he left us? And I think she probably regretted saying it as soon as she did, because I was like a dog with a bone. I wasn't letting it go. You know, she's like, just don't let, you know. And so that was when she told me about Shelly and the affair, which I guess I have to backstory a little bit. Shelly was your second wife, my stepmother for 25 years.
23.
23, long time.
Not that I'm counting.
Not that you're counting. Yeah. I don't have many childhood memories that in terms of my life with you do not include her. I don't know that I have any, quite frankly.
No.
So very much was a mother to me. I called her mom. So that day was very hard, because one, the image of, it was like there was joy in the of not knowing, you know. Now I knew. And then there was hurt, like I felt I'd been lied to for, again, I think this was my 17th birthday, so I felt like I'd been lied to. And then I felt this sense of disloyalty to mom, because here I was calling this other woman mom when she had taken, you know, again, and that on that day, it was, my mom was the victim, all of that. So, and obviously in seeing your face now, I know we've never talked about this, but
no, we haven't. I mean, fast forwarding to that time frame, that was 1998. So
going back, remember?
I do remember that now that you mentioned it. I don't remember what I was upset about. I'm sure it was something that you had done, or something that I judged you for doing. But back to the whole, just to get the cards out on the table on the actual separation or that time frame, I can't really, like I said, I don't think, I'll come back to this in a minute. I'm just going to lay it out on the table as to what happened. Gilbo came into town one weekend with his father-in-law.
And Uncle Craig was there.
Uncle Craig was not there on that. He was there.
Okay.
The initial one. Craig was there, I'm sure. You know, he moved out to Texas shortly after we moved into that house with Sherry. But Carrie came into town and brought his father-in-law, and, you know, Colleen was at home with you and Shane and his father-in-law, because he was handicapped. He was in a wheelchair and couldn't really go out with us. So Gilbo wanted to go out and run around town. And I really didn't even know, other than I could show him where that we had been down on Greenville Avenue and kind of the Playboy Club and that kind of thing, that I'd seen the neighbors from the previous take us down. But we went out on the town, just kind of farting around, doing this and doing that. And he wanted to go to this country bar. And I think it was called Slim Jim's. It was there on Greenville Avenue. It was a restaurant. It's no longer there, but it was in between Lover's Lane and the liquor store. You remember the infamous liquor store there on the left, kind of where the Blockbuster Video or whatever it was. Yep. It was right in that area. So we went in there and listened to country music, which I was not a big fan of country music at that time. I've obviously acquired country taste, but at that time, Gilbo was wanting to go to a cowboy bar. So we went in there, we stayed there for a little bit, didn't stay there very long. And then we often go, and I had never been to this place before, but we went down on Northwest Highway to the Love Field area, which was just full of gentlemen's clubs, strip bars. So we walk into Baby Dolls on Northwest Highway. My first experience into a gentleman's club.
You had never been before that?
Nope, wasn't Gilbo's first experience.
Okay.
The only place I had been to was the Playboy Club, and they were fully clothed in the Playboy Club. So anyway, we got in there, and I just, this is 1982, 82 at the time. And I mean, just, 80s rock and roll going, girls coming out and dancing. And we stayed in there and just had the time of our life. Not very long, probably about an hour. And I said, daggone, this is an eye opener. This is kind of culture shock for me, but definitely showed me what big city living was all about. So we climb back in the car, get back in the truck, and we drive back down to Greenville Avenue by Slim Jim's to see if Slim Jim's was open. We went back in that place, and it was deader than a doornail. So we got back in the truck. We moved up a block, which is where the Whole Foods is right now, I think, or Central Market, there at the corner of Lovers Lane and Greenville Avenue.
Yep.
And there was Confetti, which was a big dance club. There was the Fair, which was a gentleman's club, kind of where Hurricanes is right now in that area. And then there was La Bear, which was a female, stripper club right there in that same corner.
Yeah.
So Confetti was actually a huge dance club, and we decided let's go in there. It was December. It was the end of after Christmas, as I remember it. So we stand in line. The line's just a mile long out. We're waiting in line. And these girls come in and cut in front of us or behind us and get in line, cutting in line, saying they were with us. And it was about 4 of them. And they had been out on a Christmas party. So we started talking to them. And of those 4 girls, there was a girl named Denise. There was a girl named Shelley. And there were 2 other girls that I couldn't tell you what their names were. But Denise was, very friendly, very, very conversed a lot. Shelley was kind of very quiet. We finally get into the club, and the music's just pounding. And once again, had never been into anything like that before. And we're standing around. Carrie and I get a beer. These girls are off to the side. And anyway, Denise, the girl, comes up and asks me to dance. And so we go out on the dance floor and dance. And I wasn't really interested in doing that. But anyway, so I come back, and then I'm standing there alone, and Gilbo's there, and Gilbo's out there having a big time. He's probably 2-stepping with some girl. You know how Carrie is. He's having a grand old time.
Did he have his cowboy hat on?
Oh, of course he did.
Okay.
Yes, he did.
Okay, good.
Everybody in that Billy Idol moment was all about, was about Carrie's cowboy hat.
I bet. Yeah.
So, Shelley is standing there, and I just kind of asked her, I said, just because she didn't know where, and they had been drinking pretty heavily. They were pretty well intoxicated. So I asked her if she wanted to dance. And so she said yes, and we go out there and we dance. And I mean, as you know, Shelley knew how to dance. She could do it. She had a move and a groove, and just captivated me and my attention. And so we ended up talking and just, from that night, just not that anything happened that night. We went our separate ways and just learned enough about her and what she was, and had no idea how old she was at the time. But, that was kind of a one and done deal. And I'm sure that we exchanged phone numbers or something to that effect at that time. But anyway, I don't know that we exchanged phone numbers. I think she told me that she worked in Allen, which I didn't really even know where Allen was at the time.
Right.
At she worked at a bank, worked at the American National Bank. So I'm out and running around a couple weeks after that, and I'm on a job site doing a job site review up in Richardson, and I decide to just drive up to Allen to see if I could find that bank. And
when
I
you're
did.
Doing this, are you like,
oh, I'm scared to death.
In your mind, you're like, why am I doing this?
Yep. Oh, for sure. Why am I doing this? Petrified. Is this something? This is not good. This is not me. This is not normal. But I find that bank, and I drive through the drive-through window, and she's the drive-through teller. Mm-hmm. So I just said hello. We passed a few words back and forth, and I'm sure at that point in time we exchanged phone numbers. I don't remember exchanging phone numbers at the club. I don't know when that occurred, but anyway, just said hello and went on my way. Just said it was good to see you, and off I go. So from that point on, it was just I don't know what to say. It was just fun. It was just, we talked about this earlier on. It was somebody paying attention that drove attention, and not a good thing. Just, it was a distraction. And for whatever reason at that point in time, I felt it was a distraction that was worth pursuing. I don't know what to say other than that. It was sad. I went back home, didn't really think much about it, but at the same time, just thought constantly, about, well, this girl, and let that grab the best of me, and then just kind of continued to pursue that at that point in time. And I'll never forget, time went on. It wasn't like we were running behind at that point in time. We really didn't even know each other at that point in time, but at least there might have been a phone conversation. Well, she called the house one night. She had my number, and she called the house.
Did she know you were married?
Yeah, she knew I was married. Yep, she did. She did.
So when she called, what happened? Yeah.
Well, I remember, Colleen was right there in the kitchen. We were preparing dinner, and I just remember I said, well, I can't talk right now. And I hung up the phone. Of course, your mom asked me who it was, and I don't even remember what I responded or not. But in any event, I struggled with that for a number of weeks, and just finally I came to the conclusion. I finally said, I approached her. I said, I just don't know where this is. I don't know, but I'm just, I'm feeling something other than feeling right here, right now. I'm making up words as we talk about this. I don't really know, other than I said, I really feel I just need some space,
That's
and
what
Craig
you told
was
Mom.
there. That's what I told your mom. And I said, I just need some space. I need to think about this. And I don't have any recollection of the time that passed. But with Craig being there, I consoled in Craig, and Craig was a good sounding board. And I said, I just really, and it's kind of funny. And he brought this up the other week when I saw him in Virginia, but he and bless his heart. I mean, to this day, we can have a conversation, but I finally just said, I need to sort this out. And can I come? I feel bad about staying here with Colleen. Can I come stay over at the apartment with you and Sherry? And he said yes. And of course, he had to talk to Sherry about that. And I'm sure she wasn't thrilled about it. So I just, I moved out for a week or so and just tried to figure it out. And, Craig and I would go out and just kind of we'd go out and grab a beer here and there. And, there was one point in time where Craig actually, we ran back down to Confetti and hung out at Confetti's, and, these girls show back up. So I'm sure that I had talked to them and told them we were going to run down there, and Craig was there, I was there, and it just continued from that point on of just being a distraction. And
when you moved out, though, did you tell Mom it was because you had
yeah,
met
I
someone,
did.
or you just said
Yeah.
so she knew?
Yeah, I told her that I had, I had to fess up to the phone call. And
did you ever know that Shelly's mom called the house and talked to Mom
I had heard that story.
and
Yep.
basically told Mom to let you go so that her daughter could be happy?
Oh, I don't know that. I didn't know that was the subject of the story.
Yeah. Like pretty much said, you need to let him go. That's why Mom could never respect her. Which, again, when I found that out, that was just mind blowing to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's like, well, one, thank you for sharing this story, because I never knew all that. But like where you were with Mom, I guess I can understand that. Like you were the temptation. It's like I can feel what that would have felt like for you. But what's hard is just like how you just left us.
Well, it wasn't it was not immediate, honey. It was not that at all. I mean, there were times moving forward, number one, of me realizing I was not doing the right thing and coming back to your mom and trying to talk through it and talk to your mom, which we did. We spent a lot of time together during that time frame of being apart, of discussing, attempting to reconcile. We went to counseling. I think, looking back at where I can look at it today and how I know I am today and feel today, and even in the separation of coming back, as long as and I remember coming back to that house time and time and time again, and just, being with her and crying with her and just feeling terrible, and yet still trying to bring myself to do what I knew was right. When I say right, what was the right thing to do for family. And yeah, I can't deny that I just turned my back on it. I just don't, the thing that I regret is not fighting hard for it.
When
and
you say
I
that
don't
it
know,
was the right thing to do, meaning you felt like the right thing to do was to divorce.
to stay.
Oh, to stay.
To stay was the right thing to do.
But
and I let
couldn't.
Yeah,
Like,
I don't know if
the
it's
distraction
couldn't.
was just too great, I guess, because that's what it was, right? The distraction was just too great.
It was the distraction. It was, and here again, I don't really know how your mom felt. Like I said, I thought we came pretty close at a couple of different times of me realizing that it was going to be okay. At that point, there was no sexual relationship involved in this. It was nothing. It was not that. There was nothing more than just feelings. It was just a sense of dissatisfaction with the chance of satisfaction.
Okay.
So
I
it
didn't know
wasn't,
that. I
it
assumed
was
that
not
you had, yeah.
no, it was not a sexual relationship at all for quite some period of time. So that yeah, I mean, like I said, it's nothing that I'm proud of. It's something that I regret, and it's something that I can't take back, but it is what it is. And I felt I struggled with it, I think, as I've told you, for at least 10 years, if not more, just with the guilt of that, of what that created and the hardship that it created on my two children. So it's, as you know, been a constant battle of trying to.
Yeah.
And it took a long time to ask for forgiveness, but that's exactly what it was. It was the need to be forgiven for something that should not should not have occurred.
To just, God, it was this morning or it was yesterday morning, and Reese just out of nowhere, she said, "Mom, do you regret anything?" And I said, "Well, Reese, there were many years where I felt a lot of regret about things, but I've worked really hard to be at a place now in my life where I don't, because I do believe that everything, every choice, every decision that you make, good or bad, gets you to where you are today." And I sit here today. Life isn't perfect. Nothing's perfect, but I love my life. I love my husband. I love my kids. And so I told her that. I said, I don't ever want you to live a life of regret. You're going to do things good. You're going to do things bad. You're going to do things right. You're going to do things wrong. And you'll get through all of it. That's the Pollyanna response, right? Because the truth is, yes, there are things in life that I regret. And I guess it's not that I truly have become this person who doesn't, but what I have found is acceptance for the path taken. You say forgiveness, and that you are in search of forgiveness, which has been given by me, by Shane, by Mom, by your family. The hurt has been forgiven. And you think, well, if the separation, the divorce didn't happen, then we don't have Kelsey. We don't have the memories we have. Maybe I'm not sitting here today in Media, Pennsylvania with Chris, Reese, and Parker, right? I mean, that doesn't happen. All of it just, so I really try to get to a place in my life where again, it's not a life of regret, but more of a life of acceptance that we're all human, we all err. And I go back to,
we do.
3 episodes ago, as sad as I feel right now, and I love you so much. Like, I don't want you to think I'm crying because it's emotional and it brings back shit, but I'm not mad at you. I the things I have said over the last 3 episodes, I do believe I can understand why the distractions pulled you. I can understand the feeling of feeling wanted, feeling good, feeling young still, feeling attractive. Here's this young blonde that's interested in you. I mean, all of that is so powerful to, as we've learned over this short path of this podcast we've been on, how similar we are in that we do thrive on the attention of others. We do. And that's not always a great thing.
No, it's not. And you're right. I mean, at that time, I mean, in 82 and being 27 years old, I mean, it's and like I said, you fast forward and see what that got. It did bring Kelsey along, which I love her dearly and struggle with her dearly, just in her struggles. And I mean, you have to look back and realize that our lives would not be the same. They would not be the same. I wouldn't, in all likelihood, have my own company. I would not, I would be working, and that's one thing that, not to get into a lot of what ifs or what could be, but, I always I felt in leaving, I was finally, and this goes back to episode 1, episode 2, or just better yet, the upbringing, the guilt, the shame of just never having an opportunity through high school, a little bit into college, to find who I really am and wanted to be. And where I was headed just didn't seem to provide me or allow me to get there. And that's, we don't know if that would have changed, but I do know that, as much as I admire your mom today, admired her back in time, and as much as we loved each other then, I think she is a great woman and a great person. And I feel in the journey that moved on, I have been able to discover who I am. And not to say that I couldn't have done that with her. I don't know. It's just that, I simply feel where I wanted to go was a lot different than where I felt she may have wanted to go. And that would be a great question to ask in the future, maybe here. But as you know, I'm as I know, you may not know, but, and I know I wasn't there all the time, but I felt in the things that we got to enjoy and the things that we experienced and the things that we did, those were all things I wanted to do. It's not to say that your mom didn't want to do those. I didn't give her a chance to say that she did or she didn't. But I and I don't want to speak for her or that, but I am proud of what I've accomplished with you, with Shane, with Kelsey, in spite of 2 failed marriages. One with your mom, totally my fault. I accept that, admit that. It wasn't her fault. It was my fault. The second was kind of payback to abandoning the first, is how I look at that. So, and sad to say, in the second, after failing at the first, I wasn't going to fail at the second. And it took 23 years to get through,
to let it go.
Someone else driving the failure and letting it go.
Yeah. Well, there's
so
a lot there that
karma is a bitch.
Karma is a bitch, and there's a lot we'll get to, obviously, in that part of our life. I do want to circle back for everyone to know that you did end up calling me that night on my birthday.
Where had I been?
I don't know. It was later. It was probably 9:00, and you did. And I think Mom said something like, just glad. Well, he came through or whatever. But that was I think
But
that
I'm
was
thinking about the timeline
you
of
know what
that
it could have been, Dad?
1998.
What it could have been is I feel like that summer, I think that was the first summer I did not go to Texas for summer break.
Really?
And I think because I was really trying to dig into my shitty memory today to just start prepping for future episodes. And I need to write this down. And I think I'm going to have to end up looking at pictures and talking to Mom. But I feel like I didn't go to Texas that summer. And maybe you were upset with me because I had said, because that the timeline would have been right. You know, May would have been approaching the end of school. I
Yeah,
honestly
and I
don't
mean,
know. I just
you
know
were,
you were not happy with me. I did something that you were not happy with, and you you made that known that you weren't happy. And that's something I think that the only downside, I think, well, I don't know if it's a downside. I will say that once the truth came out in 1998, from 1998 until probably 8 years ago, in moments of you and I, whether we had had too much to drink or a fight ensued, I do think I used that knowledge as a weapon against you a few times. Whether I said it or I used it to fuel the anger behind what I was saying. And that ties to a feedback thing we'll get to here in a minute. But which this is all, again, going through this with you, I think is very healthy for us and hopefully helpful to others. But I guess I'll wrap this up with saying I hope we brought the anticipated drama that everybody was looking for. And the sad part of that is while many a times in my life friends have been entertained by our drama, I do have to remind them that, you know, this is our life. You know, we lived through these pains and these things, and while it is entertaining, it is still our truth and it is still our pain, and we've come through that, I think, in a very beautiful way. So
yeah, I agree. I think there's, I feel there is there's a transparency about both of us that, and this was hard trying to explain and in the same time soften, which that's not fair either. It just totally sucked, hurt, and the damage was done. And it took a long time to repair, no doubt about that. But the transparency that we think we have amongst the two of us is shelled many a time, remembering and knowing the hurt that has come out in the past with total transparency.
yeah.
So, as we say, we're not shy. And we're a family that pretty well holds our ground and takes our stance and declares it proudly with 3 flags surrounding us. And that does cause hurt and cause pain. And the pain hasn't stopped at the end of this story. It continues through other instances and other issues that we continue to get to uncover in the future.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the crying don't stop tonight. It just continues.
It won't. It won't. Well, I want to segue us then, and I agree with that, Dad. Thank you. That was a beautiful way to put that. Let's roll to the don't be shy segment, and I want to start this, and then I'm going to turn it over to you to share the feedback and the comments you've received. I will say we still are. We want you to send those comments and feedback to us through the website. Also, send them through info@twoclicksandapod.com. Keep them coming. What's been beautiful about this week is obviously the first to listen have been our friends and family, which they have direct access to us. So we got a lot of our feedback directly through text messages and phone calls. And I wanted to read this one for everybody. Dad, this is from our mutual friend, Wally. Wally was someone you met when I was probably about 16 years old. I was in my teens. And
yeah, I was 40.
Right. So Wally and Michelle became very good friends to you and Shelly. Michelle, Wally's wife, was one of the chaperones on my senior year spring break trip. And if I remember correctly, she had just herself turned 21 when she came for that trip. Anyways, so we go a long ways with Wally and Michelle. And Wally and Michelle also have two children, and their eldest a daughter and a little boy. And Wally sent this message to us, and it says, 2 clicks in a pod feedback. Listen to the first episode this morning. Loved it. I have always loved Kevin's story time. Hearing your voices brought me joy and honestly laughed out loud several times. I'm by far a podcast type, but knowing or learning of what 2 clicks goals were, I tried listening from the perspective of my personal father-daughter relationship that I have with McKenna. All to say, McKenna and me have an awesome relationship and very open, so it was neat to hear how you guys interact, laugh, and poke fun. However, I do know you guys have been witness to some of the bad or explosive of the 2 clicks. Again, looking at my relationship with McKenna, we have had our explosive moments as well. I've always been curious of when, where, how that comes about. Not just mine or 2 clicks, just in general. Not sure what I'm trying to say here, but thought it would be a good topic that I think many can relate. Overall rating 10 out of 10. You guys are awesome. So what Wally is referring to is obviously being witness to some of our, as he's calling them, explosive moments. Most likely it was us drinking too much whiskey and getting in a fight, which that's to say that Dad and I don't drink whiskey together anymore. I don't remember the last time we drank whiskey together, Dad. So, Wally, thank you for the feedback. We already shared that through text with you, but it was so great to hear from you and appreciate it. So with that, Dad, you jump in. I know you've got some to share, and then I'll jump in and share what I got.
Sure thing. Just tagging on Wally, McKenna is going to be going to school out here outside of Nashville and Clarksville in the fall.
That's right. That's right.
So I haven't seen Owen in forever, but we're going to get together next week when we're in Dallas and have dinner with them either Thursday or Friday night. So look forward to
Give
that.
them all a big hug for me.
Okay, like you said, we got a lot of text. I do want to go ahead and remind everybody, it is much better if you can get on the website and actually subscribe, or better yet, put your email to our newsletter subscription. That would be much easier for us to respond back and give you feedback direct through newsletter and any other comments that we'd like to bring forward. That's very important. I know you all know that clicks actually create positivity and traffic. So as many subscriptions as we can get, the better off we're going to be. First text I received this morning from your mom in Media, Pennsylvania, right down the road from you. I just listened to the podcast. It was very entertaining, and I can see where it's going to be very appealing to a wide range of people. That came, you know,
first
me, I'm an early riser. First out of the gate. My mom, the maker of the mold, watched you on YouTube, and it looks you guys had a blast and just tons of fun. Enjoyed watching the excitement from the 2 of you. She gave us a thumbs up emoji.
I mean, the woman is 90 years old watching a podcast on YouTube. Can we just go Gigi?
Yep.
That is amazing.
I had a phone call last night from Teresa, my sister, youngest sister. She's in Williamsburg as well, Virginia. Wanted to let you know I listened to the podcast and want to thank you for the smiles and the laughter. Congrats to the two of you. A great job. Be sure to tell Jamie. She was so afraid I was going to not forget or leave you out of it, Jamie. Yep.
Yeah.
Suzanne, the love of my life. Her friend Gina out of Williamsburg, Kentucky, kind of a wild, crazy story. Growing up in Williamsburg, Virginia. She grew up in Williamsburg, Kentucky. I just listened to the podcast and really enjoyed it. He, meaning me, has the perfect voice for it. Seriously.
Oh, you're funny.
Oh, and then the lovely Suzanne chimes in. Congratulations, babe. I already knew you and your mini-me would be a success at this.
Uh-huh.
Todd from Kansas City says, attaboy, click.
That's great. That's awesome. Yep. All right. Well, here's what I got. Again, Mom hit me first thing. She said, I just listened. It was fantastic. I laughed and even cried a little. I never knew the Click story, which she then came over today to pick Park up to take him for a few hours for me. And she said it again. You know, I never knew that Click story. So you mentioned that.
Yeah.
All right. We did get a submittal from my brother, Shane McClintock. And he said, Dad, this is for you. Click 1. You were invited to that podcast you were on because I set it up for you.
True.
He's like, yeah. So feel free to give me my credit. And then he said, also, Jamie, the movie you're referring to was Wayne's World. And he called me yesterday and said, I was literally screaming at the phone, Jamie, Wayne's World. Which jumps me to
that's funny.
Comment from Mark Arment, which is Chris's best friend. And he said the same thing, commented on YouTube saying 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, Wayne's World.
Uh-huh.
Haley, my sister-in-law, this is good feedback.
Hey, you need to let everybody know that you have that actually on a reel on Instagram.
I did. I put a reel of that on Instagram. Yep. So check that out. Great movie. I already said I will be watching Wayne's World this week. Haley McClintock, my sister-in-law, she said, when you mention new players, make sure you give a small intro so we know who you're talking about. For example, you mentioned Julie, you mentioned Lindsay. Next time, say my college roommate, Lindsay, my best friend, Julie. So good feedback, Hales. I appreciate that. And I will make sure to do that. So just for reference, when I say Julie, that is Julie Porter. That is my best friend that I've had since the 3rd grade. And yes, Lindsay was my college roommate and also a very, very dear friend. So they will be in future episodes. Also, Haley told me, most importantly, you're going to love this, Dad, get rid of the ice in your cup.
In my cup?
In my cup, because she kept hearing me drink my ice or the cup with ice in it. She's like, get rid of the ice, which I laughed at. And then Aunt Angie, who is Stu, my stepdad Stu, his youngest sibling, his sister, sent me a yogurt recommendation today after listening to episode 2. She sent me a yogurt. It's called Icelandic Provisions Vanilla. And she said, lots of protein. So all in all, the feedback has been very positive. I will say that Suzanne's friend said that to you. There's Grandma right now. There comes me.
There's Grandma. Yep.
But Dominic told me that. Dominic is my mom's fiance. We call him her forever fiance because they don't intend to get married. But he too told me today, he said, James, you got a voice for broadcasting. And I said, man, if only I had lived differently in college, right? But that's that regret we're not going to have. So Anywho, thank you all for the feedback. We love it. We appreciate it. We are so grateful to everyone who has listened. And thank you for allowing us to be our true selves, I guess, in this journey. So
I have one other thing that we needed to bring forward, which Lisa Brummer brought a comment to me today and just said she really, really did a great job is what she said. Mm-hmm. But sad news, they had to put Buddy down today.
Oh no, their dog.
Mm-hmm. Cock Foo.
Buddy too. Named after our Buddy, right?
Yep, Buddy too.
Was Buddy a cockapoo?
He was a cockfoo, center of the effing universe. Center of the effing universe.
Oh, I thought he was a cockapoo because that's what my Brady is.
Dano always called him cockfoo.
God.
COTFU, center of the effing universe.
That sounds about right. All right, Dad. Well, we got some planning to do because we are out of the BC era. So we're not going to be just talking about you anymore.
That's awesome.
Are you ready for that? So we're going to dive into... I'll still need a little bit of help because we're still going to be touching on some early years, but we'll bring into the mix, our life together and keep going from here. But again, thank you all for listening. Please make sure to check out the website. It's pretty simple, 2clicksandapod.com. Subscribe to the newsletter. Send your comments, send your feedback. Make sure to like or subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast. That way you're not going to miss future episodes. And follow us on Facebook and Instagram at 2 Clicks in a Pod. Until next time, I love you, Dad.
Love you, James.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in today. With so many podcasts out there, we are grateful you chose to spend your time with us.
And we'd love to hear from you. So send us your questions, comments, and feedback to info@twoclicksandapod.com, and we might feature your message in a future episode.
Also, don't forget to follow us on social and head over to our YouTube channel where you can watch the full episode live and in living color. You can find us at 2 Clicks in a Pod. That's 2, as in the number, clicks in a pod.
Well, James, until next time, love you.
Love you too, Daddy.